Yesterday it was a lot of fun talking Eagles again, which we hadn't done a ton since the draft a few weeks ago. And yesterday was obviously heavy on Kenny Gainwell and that storyline and that element of it. But, the reality is there's a lot going on here, or a lot that has gone on. Free agency done, draft done, retirements declared, coordinators changed. So let's crank it up today with a really simple question to everyone at 215-592-9494 as we look toward the 2024 season. 4 months away, by the way, from now. And I'll ask you this very simple question. How do you feel about the Eagles? What is your outlook for the 2024 Birds, and what's top of mind for you when you think about them and this season up ahead? I'll tell you this right out of the gate, and again, everyone can weigh in, 215-592-9494. The main word, there's years where the word would be, man, excited, stoked, depressed, down. Depends on what you're coming out of and what you think you're headed toward. The main word that I would put out there right out of the gate when I talk about my sort of feeling about the 2024 Eagles is, in a word, confused. Now, let me be very clear. I skew more positive than negative. I want to be very clear about that. I mean, for one thing, I think the Dallas Cowboys had a lousy offseason. They're a good team, but not a truly great team. I think there's ample opportunity for the Eagles to win the division, and that alone puts you in good standing, obviously. I also think there are, empirically speaking, with this Eagles team, I definitely believe there are more positives than negatives. I mean, I really believe that. And obviously the offensive firepower is one of the main things. I mean, a team with Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, I mean, there are teams through the years that would die for that kind of talent, all right? So there's a lot of good stuff there. They have obviously rebuilt the secondary. I think that's fantastic. I mean, we'll see how much they get early from some of these young guys. Sometimes rooks step in there and give you a lot. Sometimes they don't. So time will tell on them. I think Vic Fangio is an upgrade. So there's a lot on the positive side of the ledger. But I also know this, and this is all part of what leads to me to say confused. I wonder what the real true issue was, and if there was a locker room dynamic that went out of whack last year. I tend to think there was. Don't know if it was solved. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. That leaves me confused. I definitely don't know what type of season they'll get from Jalen Hurts. We saw in 2022 MVP level performance. We saw in 2023 pretty damn good for about 2.5 months, and then pretty damn bad for the last month and a half. So that leaves me confused. The Sirianni thing, very confused. I mean, on one hand, this guy had an incredible stretch over about 2 years. On the other hand, we saw the biggest collapse, I mean, literally since the 64 Phils on his watch. We also know they lost Kelsey, Cox, and Reddick, which is a lot of firepower to be without. So, I'm kind of all over the place here, and I'll ask you at 215-592-9494, your outlook for the 2024 Eagles. What's top of mind for you? And again, John, I'll pose the question to you. How do you feel about our Birds?
Yeah, I love you said one word. You were confused. Mm-hmm. When I was trying to think of a word, that word was dominance. That word was thank you. That's 2 words. Again,
thanks. There you go.
Again came to mind. The dominance. The Howie Roseman dominates the offseason again. It really does feel like we've gotten used to the feeling of winning the offseason. And right now, we were so aggressive in free agency. We were so ahead of our rivals, in the division. Yeah. Think about the way we re-signed all our big stars with their contracts. Meanwhile, in Dallas, you've got the entire team of stars disgruntled because none of them have gotten their deals. And meanwhile, everyone's wondering, what are they going to do about Dak? He's due $55 million against the cap. They redid him. They went into the shop to figure out how to redo him. They came out and they saved $5 million this year.
Yeah, bad redo.
Sounds like you failed at that as well. You're not managing any of this appropriately. We are ahead of the curve on all of our stars' big contracts. No one else seems to be. It just feels like it's a tight ship, as always. And I feel great about that. And then you look at the fact that it's Jaden Daniels at quarterback. with the Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury, his offensive coordinator. New. Daniel Jones, Brian Dable. Daniel Jones, no one has faith there. Like, it feels pretty good.
Well, the division's there for the take.
And let's spread out a little farther. We've got the 8th best odds to win the Super Bowl. Yep. It's in our sights, but no one's saying, hey, we're counting on that.
Right,
so that's a healthy spot to be in. We've been there recently. We know that getting there and losing hurts pretty badly, too. So let's address what ailed this team. And we know with Howie at the helm and the trades out of nowhere that he's going to continue to address this team, make this the strongest of strong groups. Anything is always possible, and we should really agree on that anything's possible. Anything's always possible with Howie Roseman as long as it makes the team better. He's just going to keep moving like that, and he keeps getting better at doing
things, John. I mean, I hear you, and I know you're in the semi pumped up mode, and that's great. I mean, again, I think there's more positives than negatives with the Eagles. Couple things I'll say, and again, everyone can weigh in. 215-592-9494 on this, May 9th date, 4 months from the start of the season. How you feel about the outlook for our squad? I'll say this: you said a lot of wonderful things, but
there's one huge negative.
Well, I was going to say the Reddick thing. Like, that's the thing that bothers me the most.
That's
because
the huge question mark that we'll probably have to just concede to. I guess we'll never know everything.
Well. Here's what we will know, but we'll know it in 4 to 8 months. Did it work or not? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Howie Roseman made a decision essentially to swap Hassan Reddick for Josh. What's the guy's name? Bryce Huff? Josh Huff?
Bryce Huff.
Bryce Harper. What's this guy's name? Yeah. All right. For Bryce Huff. That was Howie's decision. So I agree, John. It does look like that Howie did a lot of wonderful things this offseason. But that was a damn big decision. And I think most people would say probably not a good one. Now, look, I'm open-minded. Time will tell. Maybe this is a scenario of get rid of a player a year early instead of a year late. And maybe Bryce Huff will be the next sort of diamond in the rough that was identified by a Philadelphia sports team that was undervalued by a different organization. I remember when the Phillies got Jason Worth. I'd never heard of Jason Worth. Mm-hmm. I remember when the Phillies got Shane Victorino. I never heard of Shane Victorino.
How about when the Eagles got Hassan Reddick? It's the same exact idea. That's what they're trying to recreate.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a couple years younger and arm this with this guy with a new multi-year contract and believe in him, and he's younger and better. And listen, we'll see. So that one's a big one. I also know this. I think within this conversation, you always have to, at least I do, and I think a lot of us do, view it through the prism of what team we're talking about and what their past has been. Put another way, with the Eagles, there's whether you call it a standard, whether it's expectations that we've grown accustomed to, recent history, however you want to frame it. I'll put it this way. If the Eagles were the Flyers, I'm totally stoked. I'm used to the Flyers over the last 10 years not being good, either being average or essentially below average. So if the Flyers are going into a season with the firepower the Eagles are going into, I'm doing cartwheels.
Firepower is magnificent.
But the Eagles have established a different standard. And therefore, with everything that happened, including, guys, I'm going to say it again, no Cox and no Kelsey. And that's no one's fault. It just is what it is. Guys eventually retire. I forget who it was. I heard someone this week on WIP reference, the Eagles' offensive line's always good. The last 15 years. I was like, well, yeah, with Kelsey, yeah. Now, obviously, you had your group before that, John's group.
Cam Jurgens is going to be
Runyon
really
and Trey in that group. I'm not saying, yes, the Eagles for the most part have had a good for the most part for 25 years. God bless.
They'll be good again this year.
But Kelsey solved a lot of problems.
He did.
He did. A lot.
And there'll be a few problems here and there. Look, the roster's unbelievable. There's everything. The organization, the owner is consistently one of the top owners in the league. You can bank that. You got to love the front office. Howie's phenomenal. The roster, it's thrilling. Can't wait to see what this offense looks like this season. And we know what they've done with the defense all of a sudden. But no one really trusts the head coach to do the right thing, say the right thing, coach the right way. And I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I believe in Nick Sirianni like I believe in my guts that Jalen Hurts is going to get that first down or Brandon Graham, when we need it most, is going to be able to get his hands on a quarterback.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni is the big question mark. This team is where it needs to be.
So I think,
Nick's not. I need to see a lot from him.
It's funny you say that. I think Hurts is the biggest question mark. Look, we'll pose it to everyone. where you stand on the 2024 Eagles from an outlook standpoint. 215-592-9494. It's always a good day to talk Eagles. And it's it's an interesting season. I mean, there's some years you feel like you know. And then there's some years I think there is some, we'll see. How do you project it? What do you think? Joe DeCamera, John Ritchie. It's 94 WIP.